I had an emergency C-section. Because of some minor complications, the doctors were firm. I had to stay in the hospital for a full 7 days for observation. My husband, Mark, didn't want me in a shared ward. He wanted me to rest, so he paid extra for a private suite at St. Jude's Medical Center. It was quiet, secluded, and honestly quite beautiful. I thought those 7 days would be a peaceful time to bond with my new daughter, Lily. I had no idea that by the 6th night, I would be fighting to keep her. The first 5 days were normal, or so I thought. My mom and Mark took turns staying with me. The room was always filled with flowers and the scent of baby lotion. But looking back, the glitches started the very first night. I remember waking up at 3 a.m. to the dim glow of the nightlight. I looked over at Lily's bassinet. The wheels were locked. There was no draft. Yet the bassinet was rocking. Just a tiny bit. A slow, rhythmic sway, as if someone was standing in the shadows, gently pushing it to keep the baby quiet. I told myself I was just exhausted. Post-op meds can do weird things to your head, right? Then there was the humming. A faint, airy melody. A lullaby I didn't recognize. It sounded like it was coming from right next to my ear, but when I'd turn my head, there was nothing but the cold hospital air. By the 6th day, Mark was a ghost of himself. He hadn't slept in nearly a week, handling the insurance, the house, and staying up all night with me. He was pale, his eyes bloodshot. "Sarah," he whispered, holding my hand around 6 p.m. "I'm crashing. I can't even see straight. I'm going to go home for a few hours, shower and sleep. Your mom and sister are here. Call me the second you need anything." I felt bad for him, so I insisted he go. But as he reached for the door, he stopped. He didn't turn around. He just stood there for 5 long seconds, staring into the empty corner of the room. "What is it, Mark?" I asked. He looked back at me, his expression unsettled. "I don't know. Maybe I'm just losing it. But I feel like there's someone else in this room with us." The door clicked shut, and the temperature in the room plummeted. It wasn't the AC. It was a deep, bone-chilling cold that seemed to seep out of the walls. Midnight passed. My mom and sister were asleep on the pull-out sofa. I was drifting in and out of a painful sleep when suddenly, I couldn't move. It was sleep paralysis. My eyes were wide open. I could see the monitors, I could see the nightlight, but my limbs felt like they were made of lead. Then the humming started. That cold, wet lullaby. I felt a hand touch my forehead. It was icy damp, as if it had been submerged in water for hours. It smelled like stagnant pond water and old lilies. The hand slid down my cheek, moving slowly, deliberately, toward the bassinet. I looked toward the door. It was closed tight, but a thick, oily black mist was oozing through the gap at the bottom. The mist gathered, rising up until it formed the shape of a woman with long, matted hair covering her face. She didn't walk, she drifted. She stood over Lily. A single drop of freezing water fell from her hair and landed on my hand. The fear was so intense it broke the paralysis. I let out a scream that tore through the quiet of the wing. My mom and sister bolted upright. The lights flickered on. The figure was gone. The door was still locked. But when we looked in the bassinet, Lily's blanket had been pulled completely off her. She was shivering, her skin like ice. And on the back of my hand, 2 wet spots, clear as day. The next morning, a night nurse, an older woman who had worked there for 30 years, saw how shaken I was. When I told her what happened, her face went white. She told me that 10 years ago, a woman in that exact room had died during an emergency C-section. Her baby didn't make it either. Ever since, there were stories. They said she never left. They said she was still looking for a baby to hold. We left that hospital the next day and never looked back. But weeks later, I was scrolling through the photos I took that night on my phone. In one photo, taken just an hour before Mark left, there is a faint, translucent shadow in the corner of the room. It's the shape of a woman with long hair, leaning over, looking directly into the camera. So, if you're a new mom or you're heading into the hospital soon, don't stay alone. Keep the lights on. Trust your gut. Because some spirits don't want to move on. They're just waiting for a chance to be a mother again.